Hello again, everybody. Back again today to talk about a recent announcement that I meant to do a video on much earlier. By the way, real quick, guys, a little bit of a product plug here. Not sponsored by them at all. Uh, Liquid Death. So far, I've only ever had the sparkling water. It's canned water or sparkling water, non-sparkling or sparkling. It's just water, but it's super refreshing. I saw these at Target and I liked the design of the can. I wanted to try it out. I've never been a big sparkling water guy, and it's crisp, it's cold, it's refreshing. I like it. So try it out. They're not sponsoring me in any way. I'm not affiliated with them. I just think it's good. So also, if you're kind of like environmentally friendly, I don't know why I put quotes around environmentally friendly. If you're trying to be environmentally friendly, aluminum cans are much more recyclable than plastic bottles, and the company itself, Liquid Death, they say that they donate 10% of the profits from every can sold to, it's not, they don't say a company name, but they basically donate it to removing plastic from the ocean. So whatever companies and organizations there are out there that go out on the ocean and try to like get the plastic out of the ocean, they donate to those companies. So Liquid Death canned water, and canned water, it's weird. Like, we all thought bottled water was weird back when it first came out. Now there's canned water. Yeah, like I said, I've never been big on sparkling water, but it's good. But anyway, enough product plug. So, as you can tell by the title, I want to talk about the fact that the Inheritance cycle has been picked up by Disney Plus to be made into a TV adaptation. So, right off the bat, big amounts of hype. Huge amounts of hype. The Inheritance cycle, I meant to get my books out of the box over there. Damn it. I have all 4 books. I've read all 4 books. That was my first, like, what I call my first real fantasy series. You know, I was 13 when I read Eragon and Eldest. And then as time went on, the rest of the books came out. And I loved it. Yes, I was able to kind of, even at the young age, I was able to pick up on how kind of derivative it is and how it takes a lot from, like, its plot, its setting takes a lot from, like, Lord of the Rings, and its plot takes a lot from Star Wars. It's still great. It's still good. I still loved it, and I still love it a lot to this day. They tried to do a movie adaptation of it back in, I think, 2006, and it just completely and utterly failed. Like, bad. I think I was 14 at the time, and it was bad. It was bad. Like, they made the first movie. The first movie was called Eragon, just like the first book, and they made the first movie based on the first book, but they did it in a way that was so bad. They changed and or left out so much stuff that it would have been impossible to make book 2 into a movie. Like, that's how much they fucked that thing up. It was bad. So now it's gonna get a redo. We're gonna try again. It's gonna get a mulligan. This is just announced. So I don't know when we could possibly expect to see it on Disney Plus. For sure, years. Because if it's done right, we will not see this show until, at the earliest, in my opinion. Let's see here. So it's like middle of 2022 right now. I would say at the very earliest, late 2024. No, sorry, late 2025. What am I saying? Yeah. At the earliest, late 2025 is when I think we could see season 1 of this show on Disney Plus. For those of you who don't know what it is, and that's the reason you turn this video on. The Inheritance Cycle is a 4-book series written by author Christopher Paolini, and it's the story of this young farm boy named Matt. Just picture Star Wars, but it takes place in like a Lord of the Rings style world. It's this young farm boy named Eragon. He's out in the forest hunting and he finds a dragon egg. The dragon egg hatches for him, and he becomes embroiled in this war, for lack of a better word. There used to be a great order of peacekeepers throughout the land, known as they were dragon riders, and they were extremely powerful, great warriors. They kept the peace. One of them went nuts, betrayed the order, killed them all. He got like some followers to his side, betrayed the order, killed them all. Yeah, you could definitely tell. And then of course our he's the Luke Skywalker. He's the first new dragon rider in 100 years. So yeah, you can tell Christopher Paolini's, at least now I can, you can tell some of his influences. Like writing this series one was Star Wars, another one was I see influences from like Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. But I think he definitely what happened was at the end of book 2, Eldest. Book 2 is called Eldest. The books are titled Eragon, Eldest, Brissinger, and Inheritance is the last one, and it's called the Inheritance Cycle. The Inheritance Cycle. So at the end of Eldest, the second book, that's when it was abundantly clear to everyone, like, oh my god, this is a Star Wars ripoff. But with books 3 and 4, I thought that he changed enough stuff and did enough of his own thing to make the series its own thing. So I love this series. This young kid finds a dragon. The dragon is sentient, like they communicate telepathically, and he has to learn how to use magic. He has to learn swordsmanship. He has to become a cunning warrior, and he's gonna have to overthrow the evil dragon rider, who is now like the king emperor of all the land. And yeah, there's different races. There's humans, elves, dwarves, Urgles, which are kind of like orcs. They're kind of the orcs of this world. There are a few other races. There are like werecats, werepanthers. I think they're called werecats. There are sorcerers, wizards, different types of magic users. His magic system is good. I liked it. It was well thought out but easy to understand at reading the book at 13. And I guess that's as good of a segue as any to get into what concerns me the most about this adaptation, and that is one. Well, okay, what concerns me is the fact that it is Disney Plus doing it. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. I'm happy about that because Disney and Disney Plus, they definitely 100% for sure have all the money they could ever possibly need to just make the show great. They could write a blank check and they could say, I want an A+, 10 out of 10 Inheritance Cycle Eragon show. Here's a blank check. Get it done. And it would get done. They have that kind of money. So that makes me happy that it's that kind of a network studio, whatever you want to call it, that's behind it. However, it is Disney. And yes, the way Disney has handled their Marvel property has been great, but if you look at some of the other young adult fantasy book series that they've tried to adapt, like Artemis Fowl, that turned out like ass. So that was some stank ass. So it has me a little worried that Disney is doing it just because Eragon and the Inheritance Cycle have always been considered young adult. And here's the thing about that's always bothered me. I've always felt that the reason this book series is considered young adult, if you go to Barnes & Noble or a bookstore, you're going to find it in the young adult section. But that bothers me because I think that the only reason I think that it's considered that is because Christopher Paolini, the author, he wrote the first book when he was 15. So he wrote it as a young adult. And to me, that's always been like the publishing companies, back in the day when the book was new, they wanted to use that and market it as a young adult. Look, it's a young adult novel written by a young adult. That's like a marketing strategy. This book it's not young adult. it's full on just fantasy. At least I think so. In my opinion, it is. And I think it belongs in just the straight up sci-fi fantasy section of the bookstore. But that's not where they put it. And here's why I think that, and here's why the fact that it's always been considered young adult and it's Disney making the show worries me a little bit. I'm worried that they're gonna take the fact that they are Disney and the fact that it is a young adult book series, and they're gonna use that as an excuse to tone down the stakes, the violence, the death, the horrifying shit. Like, bad shit happens. People, like I said, this is a sword and sorcery world, but it's not a PG sword and sorcery world. All right, like book one contains there's some combat and there's battles and stuff in it, but it's mostly book one is like the beginning. Eragon is fighting fantasy monster creatures. He fights a shade, which in this world is it's a human magic user that got possessed by spirits it was trying to summon. And then he fights Urgles, which are like the orc goblin-y type of race. So even that though, like when he fights these things with a sword, he lays them open, their guts spill out, he lops arms off, he cuts heads off, and it says that in the book. It describes sometimes it does describe the way in which Eragon, when he's fighting, it describes the way in which he kills his enemies. And I don't want to see Disney shy away from that. Especially worries me, like if we were to get into a season 2 that adapts the second book features a huge battle at the end. And in this battle, Eragon, the main character, has to fight not just enemy like fantasy creatures, he fights other human beings that are just allied with this evil king that they're trying to overthrow. And it talks about, he's like, he like lopping other human beings, he's lopping their heads off, he's cutting them wide open and spilling their guts out, he's shoving his sword through their chests, it comes out their back. Like, he does this stuff. And he thinks about it. It's in the book. He thinks about it. He's like, it's the first time I've ever killed other human beings. It kind of sickens me, but it has to be done. Blah, blah, blah. And I just hope Disney doesn't shy away from it. I look at how Disney handled Chronicles of Narnia. Now, Chronicles of Narnia, you can make the argument that it is a children's fantasy book series, so it should not be gratuitously violent, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. However, something I saw them do in the Prince Caspian Narnia movie, and this was accurate to the book, after Peter's duel with King Miraz, when the Telmarines they kind of betray their agreement to settle this with single combat, 2 of the Telmarine guards come at Peter, and Peter cuts one of their heads off. And it says that in the book. It says he cuts the guy's head off. Now, this is a PG-rated children's fantasy family adventure movie. So they can't graphically show Peter cutting a guy's head off in this movie. In the Eragon show, I want that. If Eragon is, like, I'm not going to say murder, because murder implies, like, it's like criminal, it's evil, it's wrong. If Eragon is killing, I don't care if it's Urgles, I don't care if it's humans, I don't care if it's a shade, I don't care what it is. If Eragon is killing people with a sword, killing other characters, enemies with a sword, show that shit. It doesn't have to be gratuitous. It doesn't have to be a Quentin Tarantino movie with blood splattering everywhere. But show it. Show that shit. Don't turn the camera to some weird angle when it happens. Don't pull some Thor cutting off Thanos' head bullshit. Show it. Show Eragon cut a guy's head off. Show him put the sword through the guy and out his back. Like, this should be... like, push it as far as it can go. Like, when they make this show, it should be, we're not focused on achieving a certain rating. Like, that the goal should not be, one of their goals should not be to achieve a certain rating. Like, I know TV and movie ratings are different, but like, just go with movie ratings because they're more commonly known. Like, I don't want to see them make this show with this idea in their head the whole time. We have to keep it PG. We have to keep it PG-13. I simply want them to be like, what should we do here? And if it says, oh, well, we should do this, then do that, and then just let the rating fall where it falls. Because to be honest with you, there's nothing in these books that that if adapted into movies would make them rated R. There's nothing in there that extreme. The only thing in there is violence. That's the only real thing to kind of be hesitant of is the violence. Like there's no, it takes place in a fictional fantasy world, so there's none of our profanity in it. They're not going to be dropping F-bombs and shit like that, or saying shit, you know. And like Eragon has romantic feelings for like a female character in the book series, and there are other, like his cousin Roran has a wife, so there are romantic relationships, but there's nothing sexual. There's no sex scenes in this book series because there's a war going on. Eragon is the first dragon rider in the last 100 years. He is the only one that stands a chance of overthrowing this evil dragon rider king. Like there's bigger stakes. They don't have time to be worried about fucking. So that just does, like that's even a point of the book. Like Eragon falls in love with this elf girl, and she just continuously rejects his advances because she's like, we don't have time for this. Like you have to be focused. You have to be training. You have to be getting stronger. You have to be worried about like this war, fighting this fight. We don't have time for this shit. That's her reaction to him. So there's nothing in the books that, if adapted, would make it rated R. You're looking at a hard, if you accept the violence, and I don't think you need to do the violence so graphically that it makes it rated R, but maybe you do. My point is just don't shy away from anything. You know, like the book clearly says that Eragon lays people open and cuts people's heads off with his sword. So show him doing that. Don't have it do it off screen. Don't put it like, oh, the camera was focused on Eragon's face while his sword was in the guy. No, show him killing people graphically with a sword. I'm just saying you don't have to overdo it. Do it appropriately, but don't overdo it. That's my biggest worry with this show and it being done by Disney. I just kind of worry that they're going to tone shit like that. Excuse me. Carbonated water makes me burp. I kind of just worry that with this being done by Disney, they're going to tone down the violence because it's Disney and because it's a young adult fantasy series. So that's my only worry about it. Other than that, I'm extremely excited. I can't wait to see who they cast for these roles. The live action movie that they did back in 2006, I liked the cast. Everything about that movie looked great until you saw it in theaters. The cast was like the guy who was playing Eragon. Other than the fact that he was blonde, and it says in the book that Eragon has he has brown hair, I thought the guy worked playing Eragon. Jeremy Irons as Braum, I thought was good. I didn't like. But the point I'm trying to make is nothing about that movie being shitty was the actor's fault. None. Jaimin Hunsu as Azahad. Galbatorix was John Malkovich was Galbatorix. Like Robert Carlyle as Durza. The cast worked. The lady who played Arya, every single woman that was they cast it well. It's just the story people and the directors behind it. They went. We're gonna change a bunch of shit and we're gonna take a bunch of shit out. And yeah, they fucked it up. They totally fucked it up. But I can't wait to see who they cast for this series. I can't wait for this series. I'm extremely excited for it. I'm just a little bit worried that Disney's going to tone down the violence, essentially. Because there's nothing else in here really that needs toning down. And take it seriously the same way Peter Jackson took The Lord of the Rings. Don't just go, oh, another young adult fantasy book series that we're going to adapt into a little TV show and make a little bit of money, but really we don't give a fuck. Don't do that. Don't do that. I want to see someone take this show, making this show as seriously as Peter Jackson took making Lord of the Rings. That's how seriously I want to see it. And I kind of feel like we're going to get that, because another nice little piece of information about this, Christopher Paolini, the author of the book series, he is attached to work on the production of this show as an executive producer, and he's a showrunner. I think he might be, I don't know if he's executive showrunner or if he's just a showrunner, but like Christopher Paolini, the author, will be directly involved and have creative input. Now, I hope that, like I said earlier, Disney has all the money in the world. I hope Christopher Paolini can't be bought. I hope he sticks. I hope if they try to pull some fuckery, he plants his feet and stands up for his work that he made. I hope that they don't start saying, "Oh, well, we want to change this," and he's like, "No, I don't want to change that." And then they go, "Are you sure?" And they slide him a check across the table. I hope that kind of shit doesn't happen, but you just never know. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions on this Eragon series that's been announced on Disney. Let me know what you guys think. Who else is excited for this? Leave some comments down below. Get a discussion started. If you like this video, please hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. If you want to help out the channel even more, check out some other videos and subscribe. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.